Hola, ¿qué tal mi gente? Les habla Yami y les invito a que se suscriban al canal oficial de las 5 esquinas. Desde aquí estamos desde la Gran Manzana. Un beso.
Looking like your Doc fan. Doc, question. Do you think Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, Barry should be there. Pete should be there. Clemens should. We've got to judge these guys by what they did on the field. In Barry's case, and it's not because he's a friend of mine, but his test never proved positive. Okay, and you have to understand your ability to play baseball has nothing to do with eye, ear coordination, stuff like that. Okay, the big thing that we know what steroids do, it regenerates the body to be able to
Recuperate.
faster. So that's got nothing to do with hand-eye cooperation. Barry always choked up on his bat. And ironically, we talked about the late great Art Rush Jr., but Art was the one who had told me that it was pitchers who brought steroids into baseball. You know, so it wasn't everyday players. So Barry should
But
be.
then,
Go ahead.
if it didn't help you as a baseball player, then why take it?
I think it became in vogue. They say from a Latin standpoint of view, it's like the rite of passage. And a buddy of mine, Eddie Murray once said they were just mad at Barry because he beat him at their own game. Yeah,
You think that he was blackballed at the end of his
no
career?
question about it. You know, and the thing about you, and I really appreciate you so deeply, the greatest music of any score you do, a tremendous job here. And you're right. It's no. How does nobody not pick up at that point? First of all, how did the Giants not re-sign him? It's a smack in the face to the Giants, smack in the face to Willie Mays. But here's the guy who has the most home runs in the history of the game, most home runs on the left side of the plate, most home runs in one game, over 500 home runs and 500 stolen bases. Two-time batting champion, only oldest man to win the batting championship, first left fielder to win the Gold Glove. And you mean to tell me nobody? Eddie Murray, we were talking one day, and he said, "You know, Mel, Barry sees only one strike a game, but he's right on it." He said that ballpark had the Tampa Bay Devil Rays
Signed him?
signed him. He said that ballpark was tailor-made for him, and they would have won the World Series that year. No question, he's a black ball, and Clemens too, to a certain degree. Well, now Tim, Roger did get a chance to pitch again, but no question, Barry was black ball.
Now, why do you think that in baseball and in other sports? By the way, we're live from the
MetLife Stadium.
MetLife Stadium,
The
press
Jets
conference.
putting up 3 wins out of 4 games, a 27-24 thriller, 56-yard field goal, winning in the closing seconds, and everybody's feeling good here. And Aaron Glenn, congratulations.
Now, why do you think in general we don't see that many black journalists covering baseball and other sports? Because you do see them, a lot of them in boxing, covering boxing, but you rarely see them covering football or baseball.
Well, baseball is known to always have a problem with allowing African American media. I mean, the late great Dick Edwards, who was editor of the New York Age, said they would have African American media in the football press box in the baseball season, and vice versa. So there's always been a hassle and the ethnicity of the people we want knowledge of giving credentials to African American media, and that's startling in football, where 85% were the high populace of players, and then at a time when baseball has apex. But it's always been a problem, and it's been no question a situation of racism. But I mean, you just got to wonder, and it's nothing to wonder by. It's just some racial motivation. That's all.
Now, you personally, as a black man, did you ever had to confront with racism? I mean, along your way, that it was just straight up racism that you said, if I would have been white, this thing would have never happened.
No question about it. I mean, I remember, and baseball was the place. I mean, we had some issues, and I remember I was told by, and I won't mention his name, that they were cutting back on credentials. And I was sitting in the press box, and Mr. Richardson, who said, "Doc, where's your credential?" I said, "They said they're cutting back." I said, "Cutting back? We just had a meeting, man. We want more African media here." Same thing with the Yankees. Had a situation that they said, and it seems like that the high ups wanted, but the media people either lie about it or simply just don't do it. But I remember same thing. They called me the legendary Larry Hardesty. Hey man, you need, we need more African American media and Latin media here. The acceptance of Latin media seems to be more readily and approval. But same thing, And then I remember there was a game during the playoffs, and I got the credential, but I didn't get the clubhouse pass. So I asked the PA guy, where'd the clubhouse pass is? So I called my man upstairs. They jumped in his booty. He was, so why did you do it? I didn't have the clubhouse pass. You knew it, so they gave me the whole entirety, so I didn't have it. Yeah.
But as outside of sports, I'm talking about in your everyday life.
Oh yeah, I've seen. I mean,
Well, and you can you remember your earliest recollection of when you had to deal with it? Because you know what, that I remember talking to Reggie Jackson, and after I had read his book, and he said that one time that he was buddies with a friend of his, and they used to ride a bike and all that stuff, and everything was cool. But the minute that the father saw him riding that bike, everything changed. So, as a kid, that sticks to your mind. Did that ever happen to you?
The DNA of American racism. My friend Peter in Scotland, agent for the football players, and he talked about how a group of the guys would play together, and one of the kids was black, and then all the kids would go to this one guy's house, and as the black kid went in, the father said, "Not you, son." You don't see overt and blatant racism until you see it. Maybe we should stop while they're talking. Save the battery.
No, go ahead.
Okay. You don't see overt and blatant racism like you do in sports, military, and the police department. And I was in all three of them. Yeah, and it's there. It's the DNA of America. But the key, some things you just kind of don't see. I remember my mother told me. Robert Jack was my classmate's name, maybe fifth grade. And he said, "Why don't you put in for free lunch, Melvin?" I said, "Okay." And I put in for free lunch. And my mother told me this story years later. My beloved mother, Vivian Pauline Howard Stanley, I had put in for free lunch. And when I put in for it, the teacher looked at the application, and he said, "What do you need free lunch for? You dress better than me." And again, he was of that ethnicity that, as you know, who they are, and it's there. It's there every day, and you see it. And I've encountered it as a police officer. You see it in sports, as the media, as Marion Borgen said. We've tunneled from the back to the front, and the athletes see it. A lot of athletes see it too.
But why don't the athletes make a stand and make a change? Because I remember Bill White was commissioner of baseball.
He was president.
How come he didn't make a change?
See, now you make it because Bill left. And I remember.
But that's the point. Why leave? Why don't you stay until you make that change?
But this is why he left. I'll never forget it. And I said, "Bill, what happened, man?" He said, "They're not going to change." They're not going to change. So you can give me a gun, but you don't give me the bullets. That was the story. I never give them tell me they're not going to change.
So why, if we go by that theory, then guys like, let's say, Jackie Robinson would never have made it to the big leagues. Change would have been made if you were not persistent.
Yeah, but it wasn't about persistence. It was the opportunity. Sometimes opportunity is not presented. If Branch Rickey had never did that, I remember the late great Art Rush told me he never thought there'd be a black baseball player. He never thought there'd be a black baseball player. Joe Black was talking about him and his colleagues were talking about the elevating on to the next level in baseball. He said, "Joe, what are you talking about? Ain't no black baseball players. The opportunity has to be afforded." I mean, the Rooney Rule is a lot of bullshit. Well, you got the Rooney Rule. You have to interview a coach. Yeah, you ain't got to hire him. You ain't got to hire him. So what are you telling me? So I mean,
they do that with affirmative action nowadays.
No, affirmative action. Okay, affirmative action. Who did it help?
That didn't help anybody. It made it worse.
Well, affirmative action, it helped the white females as opposed to the blacks. But it's and then again, who says you have to do it? Who says that I have to hire X amount of people? Okay, it says this is what we would like you to do, but you don't have to necessarily do it.
Now, you were talking about Art Rush Jr. and being a friend. You think Art was blackballed by the media in his later years? Because I remember that his show on WABC.
Art Rush had the number one radio show at ABC Radio. Not the number one sports show, the number one radio show. Yeah, and it became a combination of personality and ethnicity. I remember I spoke to one guy, and I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well," I messaged him, "Man, what happened to Art Rush?" He said, "Well, he couldn't do the format. He was the format.
That's right.
He couldn't do the. He was the format.
You know, and he used to talk in his show, baseball, boxing, football.
You know it all.
Every
Personal friend of Sugar Ray Robinson. Personal friend of
Joe
Joe Louis. I remember me and Art. We heard that Ali was down in Mickey Mantle's. And when we walked into Mickey Mantle, Ali saw Art and got up, went over, hugged him. I mean, that's the kind of people that he knew. It's a sad and touching situation, man.
And the reason why I bring up Art Rush Jr. is because nowadays the journalists that you have, that you look up to, I mean, can you imagine a kid being 8 or 9 years old looking up to Stephen A. Smith?
These guys never quit.
There
Or the other clowns that are on TV.
Yeah.
You know, I think they want you, they give you that room, but then they want you to be a clown, so like they can say, well, see, well, we gave him a chance and he fucked up.
Well, between that or this is the guy that they pick. You know, so you can't say, well, you know, you chose to get, I told you to get your ice cream. Yeah, you brought me vanilla. I want chocolate. You know what I mean? I bought you ice cream. Yeah.
So the state of boxing in this year, you think next year we are going to see some better fights, or boxing is dead on arrival?
Using the words of the immortal, greatest boxing mind of all time, Marion working greatest boxing show of all time. Boxing right now is perpetrating a fraud. And then using another comment from the great matchmaker, Harold Weston Jr., the state of boxing is sad and touching. And as my man Mel Smith Jr., late Mel Smith, a personal friend of Tyson, let's say, for the initiated, they know that boxing is gone. It's done. We're never having a game like we used to. And that's because of a couple of things. And I think one of the biggest things happened, my godfather John Condon told me years ago that when the casinos came in, I can fly Danny Styles in, middleweight champion of the world. And I can feed Danny Styles in the casino. And I have a place for him to train. And you know what? Next Wednesday, I'm going to do a thing, meet the middleweight champion of the world thing. The old days, if you're fighting in the garden, we got to fly you in, find a place for you to eat, and a place to train. So, you know, it's just, and I thought one of the biggest downfalls in boxing, in Madison Square Garden, no longer had a boxing department.
So I think that what really put a dent on boxing was when Trump stopped promoting boxing. Because if you remember when Trump and your guy Don King were promoting boxing, those were the best heavyweight fights.
That was the end of boxing on the East Coast, and the president now, and you know, that's the feather in his cap. Him and Don kept boxing alive on the East Coast, and him and Don. There was a situation came where I heard that they wanted some things done, and from a sense of credibility, they wouldn't do it. But the last time we talked to the president before he was the president, we talked about that. How him and Don kept boxing on the East Coast because boxing had been going to Vegas, but they brought it back to Atlantic City. It was great for us guys, and that the end was MSG. The final straw was to withdraw all those guys down in Atlantic City. That was it.
And last, Don King. You know, nobody talks about Don King anymore. I think they're waiting for him to hang up the gloves.
He's 94 years old. He told me he's got some stuff going on, though. Last time I talked to him.
But in general, you think at the end, towards the last 10 years, they could have gotten more out of him, more, you know, use him in a better way in boxing? Because he was boxing. When you used to think of boxing, you should think of Don King.
Don was the greatest promoter, but you have to understand, I don't think Don had, he had the gun but not the bullets. I mean, when Don came on, I remember Madison Square Garden, Don came on the scene, he had a fighter named Ernie Shavers, knocked out Jimmy Ellis, he had a fighter named Ray Anderson, and Jeff Merritt. Shavers got knocked out by Jerry Coy. Ray Anderson lost to Jorge Ahumada, who got the title shot against Forster, and Jeff Merritt had some alcohol problems. So me and Sid Gatlin, my colleague from NYSS, my broadcasting school, we were in Madison Square Garden, and in comes Don at a college basketball. He said, "Hey Don, man, I didn't know you liked college basketball." I'll never forget what he said. "Mel," said, "my man, have a piece of paper here. that'll guarantee Muhammad Ali and George Foreman $5 million to fight in Africa. That, when he walked out that door, he became the legendary Don King. But you understand, he had Ali, you know, he had Duran, okay? His stable was full. Later on, you know, it was Don King that elevated to Larry Holmes to where he was. He had Larry Holmes. He had Julio Cesar Chavez. And Don understood the importance of the Latin fighter and the Latin media. But who's he got? There's nobody here.
Well, they blackballed him. They made sure he doesn't get any other
Well,
sign any other fighters.
I don't.
I think they wanted him out. Period. Out of boxing. Ever since they wrote that book with the allegations that he was taking money away from the fighters and all that stuff.
Well, you know, it was funny you said. Larry Holmes said one time we had a press conference and they asked him about Don taking money and Larry said he said, but he takes less than anybody else. He takes less than anybody else. I think health may become a big issue. I don't think they could have pushed Don. Not if you talk as much as they need somebody in boxing like that. I can't see them push him out. They need him, but there's nobody there. Francis, who do we have? There's no. Okay, we got Canelo, we got Crawford. I heard Crawford's big problem with Top Rank with Bob Arum, another one of the legendary promoters, was that he wasn't a pay-per-view sell and he didn't want to promote. You just don't have the names anymore.
You might not have the name, but you have the internet. You have social media. You don't have to promote a fight as hard as you had to promote a fight back in the day.
But you know what happened though? MMA came in, and what MMA has done, they give you quality fights with just 5 rounds. Okay, how many times did we see number 3 fighting number 9, number 5 fighting number 13? In MMA, the best fighters fight each other, and you get your championship fights. You're not waiting 2 or 3 years. And the younger generation has generated to that. They like that because it's a combination, maybe organized street fighting. My late friend Joe Frazier said it was like 2 men wrestling on the store. But so you brought a quality product to the young, and it's international. Some of the best in that invocation are Brazilians worldwide. So I think one of the big decline of boxing is that MMA came in with quality fights, champions fighting champions, and you ain't got to go to 12 rounds. Just give me 5 rounds. So they bring you a quality product with quality fighters, and you ain't got to go all night long watching the fight.
And just to remind you, if it wasn't because Donald Trump, MMA would never be in the situation it's in right now because it was banned in a lot of the states. And he came in and he let Dana White into his casino.
Well, the avenue that really opened up MMA, and you always want to give it, but MMA for the longest time was banned in New York City. And they finally, there was some senator, they said, that was fighting it. So when it came to Madison Square Garden, New York, that was the blooming pack. He definitely, his interjection is advantageous, but they find it's funny. We talk about how boxing died because of New York City, and MMA came about because of New York City. Yeah, tremendous point.
So in your eyes, we got to finish this little segment. In your eyes, is Willie Mays still the best player?
Oh, no question. You name me a player, and I tell you what Mays is better than him. We talk about Willie hits 660 home runs. Willie conceivably lost 10 home runs a year at Candlestick Park. So that's 790. The Trees in military, that's over 800 home runs. Name me a player, and I'll name you what Mays is better than he is. Okay, you talk Ricky Henderson, hit more home runs than Ricky, better fielder than Ricky. Okay, Barry, better fielder, better arm. Mantle, better fielder, better arm. Hank Aaron, better fielder, better arm. Clemente Mahone. You name a player, and there's some part of their game that Mays excelled where they didn't. So, and
well, we got that Japanese guy right now that might be better in the long run. Might be better than.
It can't be. He's just a DH. Imagine the kind of numbers Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and Mickey Mantle and Reggie Jackson and Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams and Harmon Killebrew and Dick Allen and Mike Smith, Frank Robinson would have had if they could just hit. And
not played on artificial turf.
Oh, another guy, my buddy Andre Dawson. Yeah, and I've said this, and I don't want to knock anybody. Today's player would not be the same player of yesteryear. When you got to come into New York and face Ryan, Seaver, then you got to go to L.A. and you got to face Koufax, Drysdale, Padres, Osteen. Now you got to go to San Francisco. It's Gaylord Perry, and there's Juan Marichal. Then you got to go out to Cincinnati. St. Louis is Gibson. They wouldn't be the same players, that they are now. And like I said, and the DH supposed that came in to save the careers of Mays, but it didn't. So you take your hats off to them, but and these guys are not 300 hitters against this kind of pitching. They're not going to be the same player that they are. Okay, like I said, Gibson, Carlton. Now there's Jenkins in Chicago. There's Koufax, Drysdale alone. Okay, then you go out Cincinnati. There's a guy named Jim Maloney. Nobody talks about Jim Maloney, another outstanding pitcher. Then there's Nolan Ryan out there in California who thought he's already going to the Dodgers. You got Jenkins. Back in the day, Whitey Ford. They're not. They're outstanding today, but the caliber of play. And you said that too, Danny. We're watching a game at Shea Stadium, and the guy is September. He's got a 214 lifetime bat, and he's playing. One guy's batting 236, one guy's batting and he's a major leaguer.
And you know what's scary is that a guy has 22 home runs, and he's a home run hitter.
Home hitter today, man. 20 home runs, getting crazy money.
All right, listen, we got to close this real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Is Greg Nettles a Hall of Famer?
If Scott Rowland's in the Hall of Fame, Greg Nettles should be there. It's that simple. You got to look at Tony La Russa as a manager, but was he the same manager as Billy Martin was?
There's no way that Tony La Russa is a better manager than Billy Martin.
Don Mattingly should be in the Hall of Fame. Like I said, some of the guys that are there are not, in my opinion, Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame used to be for the league. Don Mattingly should be there.
Keith Hernandez should be there.
Yeah, and I think Gil Hodges finally going to get this.
Joe Carter should be there.
Yeah, there's a vote for Joe, but it's no question that Hernandez and Mattingly should be there. I don't see how Billy Martin's not there as a manager. Okay.
And Lou Piniella as a manager.
I don't know about Lou.
Well, I do.
That's your guy, but and here's it. No. Okay. Why is Timmy Munson not there? Why is Timmy Munson not there? And here's the staggering that when Willie Mays got voted in, 23 guys didn't have Willie Mays on the ballot. Didn't even vote for Willie Mays. But it's no question. Munson should be there. No, okay. If all the names we just named right here,
and another guy that should be in there,
good.
Louis Tiant.
I don't know about Louis. I'm just talking about a certainty.
Well, if you got Blyleven in, you got to put Louis Tiant.
Yeah, Blyleven almost won 300 games.
Yeah, but how long did it take him to do it?
as Mel Smith would say, a point well taken. You're right. A point well, yeah. Louis T. Hall of Fame used to be for the elite of the elite, and now it's not that way anymore. And you got guys in there that validate the guys you named should be in there too. Scott Rowland is a name that if he's there.
And we're not throwing piss at Scott Rowland by no means. He's a good player, but he's not nowhere a great player.
If he's there, these guys should be there. It's just that simple. He is their peers. In a lot of ways, he's their superior. Okay, that's all I'm just saying. In a nutshell. But certainly, Billy Martin was a manager known to wherever he went, the team got better. Okay?
That's right.
The record shows that. And that's what the manager does. He had Billy Ball out there with the A's. He came in here with the Yankees. As a manager, Billy should be there. In my opinion.
And his protégés, Buck Showalter, Willie Randolph, Chris Chambliss, all those guys.
Yeah,
Roy White, all those guys became managers at the end.
No, only Willie. It's said that.
No, but they stood in baseball as coaches or managers. And
yeah. Well, that's an organization move. But to think about Willie Randolph, how does Willie Randolph not get a second chance and Chris Chambliss not even get a chance when a guy like the guy used to play, Mazzilli, but we know the story there. As Ali said, complexion of the connection. How did Mazzilli get a managerial job ahead of Willie Randolph, and Chris Chambliss didn't even get one at all? An upset right there. An upsetting right there. But
and you know what's funny that Lee Mazzilli's going into the Mets Hall of Fame.
Well, that's all you know about the Mets. Who didn't want Reggie Jackson? You know what I mean? Who wouldn't re-sign Darryl Strawberry? That's all you need to know. Eddie Murray was with the Mets. He won MVP, team MVP 2 years in a row. He's en route to 500 home runs, 3,000 hits, and the Mets had a press conference that they weren't going to sign him. So that's all you need about the Mets. But I like this new owner though. I like this new owner that they have.
Cone?
The guy. I think he quite possibly is the best they've ever had.
Well, let's hope we don't go bankrupt with all the money that he's spending.
Listen. I think at this point we can say he's got it. He's got it. He ain't losing no money. And his wife kind of assures that she ain't gonna lose no money.
Soy Francia Santana de Miel Mi Campito, así que suscríbanse al canal de las 5 esquinas.